Hi folks. Over the last couple of weeks, you've been working on figuring out how you're going to measure your constructs of interest, and you've started to put together your project description worksheets and you've turned those in, and now you have to turn from those worksheets and from your ideas and from how you're going to measure things into a specific detailed research design that's going to be described in your formal proposal document that you'll complete this week. Your TA will help you with that process and you'll talk about it in lab. But there are a couple of things that are different about this formal proposal than from the sort of worksheet that I really want to spend a little time talking about, because there's some small details, but those details are really important for ethics and university policy. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to take a look at the UMaine IRB website. You can see that here. You can just Google for UMaine IRB and you'll find it. And you have some information about the Institutional Review Board here at the university. We'll be talking about that in class, but there's a lot of detail here. You don't need to do all of this because technically your project is not research according to the definitions of the university. It's a class project. So what that means is that you can't use the phrase research project anywhere in your informed consent information or in information that you give participants, because technically that's not true. And if it were true, we would have to propose these projects to this institutional review board. So make sure that you always talk about this to participants as a class project, not as a research experiment. What you can get from this page is not only how the university protects human subjects, but also some guidelines for class projects. Now, these are focused on instructors, but there are details here that talk about what projects can do and what they can't do. So you should take a look at that to decide whether or not the way you're measuring something is appropriate. What you're going to be asked to do is to provide an informed consent form and some recruitment information for participants in your project proposal that lets us know exactly what you'll say to participants and exactly what participants will understand that they're expected to do. So if you'll pull up your proposal description and an example document and you're looking through, this is the formal proposal example that you're provided in that document, and as you get past references you get into the appendices, and that's what we're talking about today. The first appendix should be your informed consent form, and there's a description here that it should be on its own page, that it describes what the participant needs to know, and loosely follows the format for an informed consent agreement for a research project. So remember, there should be an introduction. You should talk about me here so that they know it's being supervised and that it's a class project. And participants should know some information that's under each of these headings. So they'll know what they'll be asked to do. There should be a time estimate involved. They'll know what their risks are, and every study has risks. Most of the time it'll be something like this. You'll want to let participants know that they can always skip any questions and they can terminate participation at any time. There should be a benefits section because people shouldn't engage in risks without there being benefits. So you're probably not providing any direct benefits to your participants, but you hope that there will be some benefit from the study and that it will also help you complete your requirements in this course. Make sure that participants understand their participation is voluntary and that they can quit at any time, that their data will be anonymous, that no identifying information will be collected, and ask them not to provide any information that might identify them. And finally, they should have a way to contact me. If you're doing your study as a pencil and paper survey, for instance, you will have this as a page that participants can keep after participating. If you're doing this online, this informed consent form will be the first question in Qualtrics, where participants can indicate yes or no, where no takes them to the end of the survey and yes lets them continue. One of the things you should be thinking about now is how you plan to recruit your participants. Whether you intend to recruit them via email or group posting or even Facebook message, whatever you decide to do, there are some rather strict rules by the Institutional Review Board on what these messages need to include, and a lot of it is the same information that's included in the informed consent form above. So these are the things you need to do. You need to include your identity. You must include that your participants need to be over 18, that this is a class project, tell them what it is, what basically they'll be asked to do, a time estimate, what you'll do with the information, that this will be confidential, and that there's some contact information for you and for me if they have any questions. This is sort of a narrative version of your informed consent form, and you can see an example below. When you turn in your project, you'll have an example email or example contact information here. If you're going to do this over the phone or you're going to do this in person, you should have a script for what you plan to say to participants when they approach you and ask, hey, what are you doing at your table in the union? You should have a script for what you're going to say that includes this information. Below, in the final appendix, will be the materials that you have been working on, deciding what they'll be over the course of the last couple of weeks, and they'll be provided in their entirety for how participants will see them. I'm looking forward to seeing your proposals, to seeing your informed consent forms, your recruitment information, and to seeing how these projects are coming together. Remember that at the end of this week, you'll turn in your projects to your TAs. They'll give you feedback as quickly as possible. And then at the end of next week, you'll turn in these to me via email. Take a look at the syllabus to see exactly how to do that. I look forward to seeing them. Have a great week.